guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to do more of a relaxed one. It's going to be a bit of a life update followed by me answering your questions. You've got lots of great sewing questions. So as you can see, I am not in my normal space, so I've got a little bit of a life update for you. If you're not interested in that, I'll put a timestamp here where the sewing questions begin. I'm not at home because my marriage has come to an end. I'm obviously not going to go into too much detail about that because there are other people involved in this. But suffice to say, it wasn't my decision and I'm staying elsewhere now. My sister, who is an absolute bloody legend, has put me up. So I don't have my sewing machines with me at the moment. I'm not going to be able to do demonstrations for the next little while. It's really super important that I can earn money now. Please watch this video till the end and also share the video out, like it, comment, all those things, because that's really going to help the algorithm to give me more views, which means more money for me. Also, if you really enjoy the content and you do get value from the videos, the information, the tutorials, everything that I do, then please consider purchasing a coffee for me. The link will be down below. At the moment, I don't even have a computer. I'm in a right bloody mess right now. You might ask why I didn't stay in the flat. Number one, I needed some emotional support, so I came to my sister's. And number two, my husband's got a job where we lived. It also made more sense for him to look after the cat, and I didn't want to upheaval the cat unless I have to. So I'm missing the cat as well. So can I just ask that when you do leave a comment, and thank you in advance if you do, please be nice with your comments because this is all very raw for me right now. But the show must go on. I've got to earn money, so here we are. Earning money. Let's get into it and answer your questions. We're going to come a little bit closer because my coccyx hurting. First question I got was someone saying they're 72 years old, they're a quilter. Are they too old to learn to sew clothes? Absolutely not. You are never too old. Until you've got your last breath in you, you are never too old. I didn't learn to sew until I was about 38, and that might seem really young to you, but to me it's not. I wished I started when I was 16. So fill your boots. There's a bit of a process to learn clothes, but you can get the basics down really quickly. This lady stated that she is plus size, so that does come with some fitting issues, but it's nothing you cannot overcome. If you check out the video that I had up before this one, it actually went up last night at the time of filming, and that goes through my step-by-step process to get a really good fit. So watch that and all the other videos on my channel because there's lots of them that will help you learn the skills that you need. The next question is, what fabrics do you recommend for beginner garment sewers? I would say cotton is a really good one to begin with. Anything stable, linen is a good one, although might be a bit expensive for a beginner. Basically anything that is stable and is not too flowy. So you want to avoid the viscoses, the satins, the silk, anything that's got too much drape. I'm doing this to denote drape. And I certainly wouldn't say to avoid those fabrics forever, but certainly for your first project, you do want something stable, and a cotton is a great place to start. This next question I've had a couple of times, and that is, when I make a jersey t-shirt, why does a neckband stand out from my body? That's a really simple one and it's a really easy fix. Basically, when you put the band into your fabric, into your body fabric, your bodice, you want to have less length on the band than the hole that it goes in, so that when you adhere it to the hole, it stretches, and as it stretches, it will lay flat. If it's not stretched enough, i.e. there is too much length, when you wear it, it will pop out because it's not stretching into your body. The more stretch you have, the shorter it can be. I think that's right. So the next question is, sewing without a dress form, are they worth the price tag? They are expensive, aren't they? I had a dress form once and it was just a plastic one with a fabric cover on it. And it was completely useless to me. I wanted to do draping, to make my own garments by draping them. essentially a number 1. It was an expandable one, but it still didn't go up to my size. I know there are things you can do to pad it out, but I didn't do that. And number 2, I couldn't get pins into it because it was plastic. So it was really difficult to use for the purposes I wanted to use it for. That was a cheap one. I bought that from TK Maxx and it was about £60. But you can get really good ones, fabric ones, the professional ones. If I had the money and the space, I wouldn't hesitate to get one if I wanted to drape my own patterns. I would ideally order one in my specific size. Our sizes change, don't they? So is it really worth it? I don't know. It's a personal choice that only you can make. I haven't had my dress form for years, and even when I had it, I didn't really use it. So I've managed to sew without, but I only really use patterns to sew. So think about that. So the next question is how to alter patterns if you're one size in the bust and another size in the hip. So that is grading between sizes. That's what you call it. So if you Google how to grade between sizes, that will explain. I've got videos on my channel. Check out this video where I've put all my adaptions in one video, all the adaptions from different videos in one video, like a compilation. And there's timestamps as well. So look through that, see if there's one in there. I'm not 100% sure, but I know I have done it. So basically you just want to go from, say your bust is one size and your waist is another size, you just want to blend between the two sizes. I wish I could demonstrate that for you now, but unfortunately I can't. Next question, any recommendations for a jumper dress? The only jumper dress I've ever made is one by Nina Lee. I forget the name of it, but I pattern tested that a few years ago and it was pretty good out of the packet. So the next question is someone wants to make a plus size winter coat using wool fabric and they want to know whether they should pre-wash their wool. Personally, I would say you pre-wash any fabric that is going to be washed afterwards. So if you're going to put it in the washing machine afterwards, then put it in the washing machine before. If it's going to be dry clean only, then I wouldn't. But what I would do is I would steam it to ensure that any shrinkage does occur. I am not experienced working with wool at all. I'm not sure I've ever actually used wool, to be honest. Please don't take my word for it, do some research. Next question is, in my opinion, what are the milestones that denote that you go up a level in sewing? The words were demonstrate an advancement in your sewing skills. I don't know that I personally think about sewing in those terms. I just think about it in terms of I'm sewing and then I learn more stuff and I sew more. As I gain in confidence, I'm going to try more difficult things. And over time, before you know it, you are going to be a more experienced seamstress. But if you're looking for specific milestones, like when you first start, you might not have made anything, so you're a beginner, a complete beginner. When you can do techniques with your eyes closed, such as putting zippers in, mitered corners, buttonhole, plackets, those kinds of things, any technique, then you become a more intermediate sewer. But really don't focus on that because that's really not important. All that is important is that you are learning more with each project and you're improving your skills as you go. So every garment you make will be a better garment for you. The next question is, what is the most challenging thing for me to sew and why? So for me personally, probably a coat is the most challenging thing, and not for the reasons you might think. I think with any project you sew, it's just a series of steps. You can take it one step at a time, and when you break it down into steps, there's nothing out there that is that difficult. And if there's a technique that you don't know, you can practice it before you put it on your garment. So the actual process of doing a coat doesn't scare me. I've made 2 or 3 coats in the past. With my fatigue levels and my reduced stamina, when you're sewing a coat, it's often with a really heavy fabric. The further you get into your project, the heavier it becomes, and that becomes very daunting for me. So that is the most challenging one. That's a physical challenge for me. Next question is, when is it more important to master a skill rather than attempt a new type of project to improve your capabilities as a sewer? I think that's really a personal choice, isn't it? It depends what your needs are around your sewing. I'd say if you're struggling with a technique, then practice that, because that's more important if that technique is coming up in a project you want to tackle. Practicing techniques and attempting new projects that you haven't tried before are both really good for furthering your skills, basically. So it's not either or, it's really dependent on where you are. If you want to attempt a garment that you've never done before, but there's a technique in there that you haven't done that frightens you a little bit, practice it first and then you won't mess up the actual garment. Can I just say, if you're enjoying this video, do hit like, comment and subscribe to help the algorithm. Appreciate you. Someone's asking, what is the easiest style to practice a full bust adjustment? For me, I'd say maybe it is a A-line dress or a shirt. Something where the waist and the hips is not going to be impacted by the changes you make up here. Because the important thing to understand when we make any changes is it does impact other areas. That's what I would go with, is an A-line dress. Someone's saying they got a few projects to do coming up this year. Is a logbook worth it? I would say no. I've bought logbooks in the past and I've never actually used them. So personally, for me, I'd say no. It depends if you're likely to use it. If you're likely to use it, then maybe it is. But I don't see why we can't just write it on a piece of paper and keep it in a folder. It just does the same thing. If you have a look at some of the logbooks, you'll see the sort of things that are inside them, and you could create one yourself on the computer if you wanted. There's lots of ways. I use an app called Notion to keep all my information about everything, and that could be really useful for you to log what you want to do and the process, the notes, etc. Someone's asking the question, given the context that they have fibromyalgia, they have chronic fatigue and depression, and they find sitting at the sewing machine for extended lengths of time difficult. So have I got any tips for that? You've come to the right person for that. You honestly have. I myself have chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, and I also have a damaged coccyx. I don't know if it's broken or not. I had a fall 2 years ago and I've been in agony ever since. And so I can't sit for very long at all. What I found the most useful is my standing desk. About 1.5 years ago maybe, I did a brand deal with a standing desk company. They sent me one and that has been amazing for me, especially with the coccyx issues. Because if I want to sit, I can lower the table, and if I want to stand, I can heighten the table, basically. These days, I don't sit to sew at all, and I do it in small spurts as well. So I might just do 10 minutes of sewing, standing up, and then have a rest, and then come back to it. It does make the process of sewing slower, but it's also more manageable for me. The next question is, do you recommend any free patterns? I recommend lots of free patterns. I've got loads and loads of videos with the free patterns. I'm going to do another one pretty soon as well. I will leave the playlist down below for all my free patterns videos. There's lots of them. Go through them and you will see the patterns that I love and recommend. So the next question is about serger stitches and about balance and tension, and they're looking for the perfect stitch, just so it goes around the edge beautifully and hits in all the right places. You guys, if you're a serger sewer, you know what I'm talking about. I did this video where I showed you how to get the perfect tension. So have a watch of that and you will not look back, I promise you. Also, check out my other serger video, which I did recently, where I showed how to thread it and all of that business, and lots of secret tips that you didn't know. So the next question is, do I still have the Pona jacket I made a while back? So I made 2 Pona jackets a few years ago. That's by Helen's Closet. I made a bright pink one and a black and white one. And no, I don't have them. I did a real brutal declutter after that. and got rid of them then, because I got rid of pretty much most of my clothes. I have about 5 pieces at the moment. So it's a little bit annoying that I don't have my sewing machines with me at the moment, because I really need some new clothes and I've got no money to buy them. I also did some videos about the Pona jacket sew-alongs and what have you, so check those out as well. All videos I'm mentioning will be linked down below. The next question again is about gaping of the neckline. I've explained that before, so refer to that earlier question. That person also asked what they do with their stash that they want to declutter. They sent some to a school for special needs, which is a fantastic thing to do. But what do they do with the rest? There's lots of things you could do basically. You could sell it, like Facebook Marketplace, places like that, eBay. People will buy it from you and you can make a little bit of money back. You could donate it to other schools. Most high schools do textiles, don't they? And they could benefit from it. I've given fabric to my local school in the past. You could look for a children's charity because they might work with fabric in some way or another. You could make clothes with it and donate the clothes. There's a campaign called Make a Dress, I think Make a Dress something or other. Alicia over at Thoughtful Creativity always does this every year, where she makes a lot of dresses for little girls and gives them to charity. That's a really good thing you could do. Or you could give the fabric to the local charity shop, thrift shop, whatever you call it. The next question is tips on cutting out a multi-size pattern when you're not actually the biggest size in the pattern. Also, without damaging the pattern, and they're stating that tracing is one option, but it's a demotivator because it's a whole other step. So for me personally, I do trace off because I purchase A0 patterns and they're quite expensive, so I don't want to ruin them. I often think I'm one size, and turns out once I've done a 12, I have to go down a size or 2. And if I'd cut out the pattern, that would have been a disaster. So I do trace off, and it is tiresome and it is a demotivator, but ultimately it's really worth it for me. If you don't want to do that, if you're using traditional patterns, that's a lot easier to fold them over. I would just fold them over. I would lay my fabric out, fold the pattern pieces over to your size on there, and then just cut, being careful not to cut the actual pattern. I think that is the best way to do that, the quickest way without adding extra steps. So that's all the questions I got from you. I did ask for these questions over in the community tab. So if you want to ask questions for the next Q&A, there will be one at some point, then keep an eye on my community tab because I write in there all the time. I'm always updating if there's a free pattern that's been released. I will let you know over there, and I give you life updates over there, and if I'm not able to get a video up, etc. Thanks for watching to the end. If you're still here watching, I absolutely appreciate and love you. So check out this video next because this is going to really help you level up to that next stage of sewing.